Bruce, first of all, thank you for the great work that you did. You know, Texas has a very low turnout compared to other states. You are the voting judge. What do you do to make a turnout more like Minnesota, where we have 75%? What would it take for us to have high turnout? What would you do?
You know, I'll tell you, the question is, what would I do to increase the turnout?
In a big way.
In a big way. That's a hard question, and I had something I was even going to say. The highest turnout elections are ones that aren't really the most important elections. Lottery, horse racing, sports arena, you saw that. Wet, dry elections. Whoa.
Dry areas.
But city and school district elections voting 5%, 6%. And over the years, I've tried to figure out what it is. And I will tell you what I've seen that increases turnout. It's the candidates on the ballot. It's the high-profile money spent and high-profile candidates fighting it out that tend to get higher turnouts. I don't know the answer. After 30 years, 31 years in this, I honest to God don't know what it would be to do it unless you made it mandatory, right? But you know that Congress is looking at universal registration. They're looking at ways of making it easier to register. Where when you become 18, you automatically become registered. You don't have to do it proactively. And so that's one thing that maybe will help increase and get more people involved. I think teaching kids at a younger age, getting our schools back into teaching them the importance of this. And it's a crawl, walk, run situation. And I honestly, God, don't know the answer to it, but I think it's not one that there's a magical answer.
That's same-day registration.
I'll tell you, same-day registration, Danny Clayton and I both agree with this. Same-day registration is a doable process. And you know why it's doable now? Because we have sophisticated databases that can verify, they can look people up. We have provisional voting processes that you can verify if the person was qualified and register them afterwards. I don't really have this fear about election day registration. I've seen 4 bills this session filed on it. I think it's a doable thing, and I don't think it's going to upend the process and cause any fraud, because you still would have to verify, you would still have to make sure that you can identify the voter through the process that happens right now. It just will take a couple days to get it done. You add them just like a provisional vote. Danny felt that way. We're saying we're wasting all of this effort making it complicated when really with the abilities to do things over the internet and authenticate identity and all these other things, we ought to probably in the next phase start trying to look at that. I think it's a doable thing. I really do. That means I can't run for office now. Thank y'all very much. Somebody's going to record that. Bruce Sherbet said.
I had a question. You mentioned about voting center locations like they did in Collin County. What could be done differently so that the disaster that they had up there wouldn't occur if Dallas were to do the same thing?
Exactly. But I've got an answer for that, too.
Can you get the background?
Yeah, Collin County, here's what happened, and this was about 5 years ago. Lubbock was the first county to try this vote centers. And what it does is it takes the philosophy of early voting and it moves it to election day. So voters can go to any one of the election day polling places and vote. It requires it probably requires mostly now electronic voting, which Collin County has, and a what we call e-poll book where you can verify voter registration electronically, so they can't go anywhere else and vote. But here's what happened to Collin County, and it's a problem. And I looked at it, and here's what caused them the problem, and I know it. They were larger than Lubbock. They're 300,000 registered voters, something like that. Larger. They had like 80 locations. But guess what happened to them? Same thing that happens to me on the last day of early voting, or the next last day. Voters gravitate to certain locations. There were 80 locations. The voters were just merging into these 3 or 4 locations. Lines were wrapped around. They didn't have enough equipment. They didn't have enough computers. They may not have had enough people. They may not have anticipated that turnout to be like that, because that was the first major election that they had tried that.
They also had a virus on all the computers and all the voting locations.
Right. That didn't help, but I'll tell you, that didn't help. But really, with Collin County, you have got to somehow make voters understand you've got 80 locations and quit coming to the 5 ones. Look, I Redeemer, Fretz Park, I can show you the ones, Garland, Irving. It's the same thing for me. DeSoto, they just come in hordes the last day, because voters have 12 days to vote, but they wait till 5 o'clock on the last day. And then I tell them in the media, I say, you could just vote 5 times faster if you waited till election day. They stand in line. They say, no, I'm going to vote on here. It takes 3 hours, but they're still going to wait until.
One of the things that happened in Collin County was that we had 32 locations, but one of the problems was the Republicans used it as an excuse to cut the number of voting locations. They took essentially what were precinct polling locations, just cut the number. They weren't really true voting centers. They cut out a bunch of locations in the middle of Plano to where some of these other locations got hammered.
See, I didn't know that. Sean knows that because he's right in the heat of the storm on that. But I didn't know that. But it did seem like one of the problems was too many people were coming to
Absolutely.
locations.
There was the lack of equipment.
And personnel, and let me tell you, nothing will hurt you. But my first election, I'll just tell you quickly, 87 constitutional amendment election, I ordered 5 times more ballots than I needed because we had an issue in the punch cards, by the way. We voted so many, I ran out of ballots by 2 o'clock in many locations. People were voting on paper towels, they were voting on napkins. Some people said toilet paper, I never saw that, but I'll tell you, it was horse racing. I misjudged the number, and I had an old vendor, he no longer works for the election company. He told me, Bruce, I'm going to tell you something. If you order too many ballots, you're going to probably reprimand you and say it's wasteful spending. You run out of ballots again, you're going to lose your job. I never ran out of ballots again, and that's the kind of thing you have to have enough people, you have to have enough equipment, you have to strategically place, because we're in a voting rights state, you've got to make sure you've got those locations spread appropriately across the process.
And they were warned ahead of time, and they pretty much ignored it for cost savings.
Would you like me to come out there and help you?